Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Weekly Blitz. My name is Joel Moran and I'm joined by my co-host Jackson McIntyre, and we are here after NFL Week 10, and we're going to have a brand new format for this episode. We're going to probably be going with this format moving forward. We are going to recap every single game that happened in NFL Week 10, starting with Monday Night Football, and we're going to go from best to worst. But before we do all that, Jackson, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Unfortunately, we watched Tua try to get concussed after an interception once again. So hopefully he doesn't keep doing that. But yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I finally have come to peace with the Jets season officially being over. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about a surprise, miraculous turnaround to the season. I'm
Yeah.
officially over it. But there's so much things right now that are going on in the NFL that I'm having a lot of fun rooting for. So I can't be too mad.
So are you hate watching now? You're rooting for the tank or what's going on with that?
I'm hate watching. I'm rooting for the tank, but I know it's going to happen. I've seen enough Jets football to understand how this process usually goes. The Jets usually start off very bad, and then they're going to rattle off meaningless wins down the stretch of the season to ruin the draft position, and then we won't be able to get one of those blue chip top end prospect guys. So I already know what's going to happen, and I'm not going to be surprised when it does.
Yep. You guys and Carolina apparently are both trying to win just enough games to ruin your draft slot.
Carolina has some life now. Now,
Yeah.
the first game we were going to talk about, Monday Night Football. It's because it's the freshest in our minds. It just happened. Dolphins and Rams. The Dolphins won 23-15. Dolphins are now 3-6, and my major takeaway from this game is that they have a chance to go on a little bit of a run here, according to FTN. Second easiest schedule remaining against the Raiders, Patriots, Packers, Jets, Texans, 49ers, Browns, and Jets. Coming into this season, you would think that that's a difficult schedule, but Patriots, Raiders, we know they're bottom dwellers. The Jets, 2 games against them, poorly coached football team, terrible operation. The Texans seem a bit overrated right now. Just the offensive operation as a whole is lackluster. And the 49ers, they get into these dogfights mostly because their special teams have just been so bad. And then you have the Browns. I think the toughest game here, the two toughest ones are the Packers and 49ers, but every one of those remaining ones are winnable.
Yeah, they're in a average or above average schedule situation for them. I wouldn't have any confidence. I don't think they're that good of a team. They're in average to slightly above average team, but with that schedule, it's a possibility. Um, I do think the Texans are going to look like a totally different team once Nico Collins is back. That's just how it goes. You give a quarterback like C.J. Stroud a top tier weapon like Nico Collins, and all of a sudden he looks like quote unquote fixed. So I think that's going to be a loss. But yeah, I mean, there's some anemic teams there. The Niners are beatable this year, so um, yeah, we'll see. Tyreek's got to turn around this quiet year. I know he's got that wrist injury. Um, shouldn't be affecting it this much unless it's more than it sounds like, which it could be. But um, yeah, and also Tua, like I mentioned earlier, stop diving headfirst every possible chance you get with or now without the ball too. Apparently, so yeah, that's the quickest way to ruin that this potential comeback for them.
This was a good one for the Dolphins. This game all over the place, especially in that first half where we just had kind of like a ping pong of turnovers just going on with the Rams and the Dolphins. Not the best game from the Dolphins offense. The defense really showed out. 17 total pressures. Chop Robinson had 4 of those. I think
Yeah,
he's really coming onto the scene. He
he
was a
is.
project pick, but as of recently, he's been playing really well.
Yeah, the young edge rushers tonight. Jared Verse had a good play. Yeah, it's that pick though that Tua threw off his back foot, the one that he ended up diving headfirst at the interceptor for. It was a really bad pick. He threw it off his back foot. He was drifting. He doesn't have the arm strength to throw off his back foot. There's a select number of quarterbacks that should never be throwing off their back foot unless it's a dump off, and he is one of them. it was just a simple cover two, and he threw right into the Tampa or the pull runner, the middle's underneath zone defender who was dropping back, and you can't have that. So um, luckily, Matthew Stafford wasn't a whole lot better. He did have some good throws, but there were some plays that the Dolphins defense didn't make, and plays that they did make, but that late the ball to or he didn't or he missed, but there Kyron Williams was open for that touchdown underneath and shallow on that like play from the 5 yard line or whatever that could have helped change the game, and missed it. And it seems like the Rams offense this year has just been full of missed opportunities and misreads. And a lot of that for a while was that Stafford didn't have weapons. Now he does, and it was still kind of an issue tonight. The offensive line was also a huge issue. So yeah,
I feel
tough
like
season for
Tua
the Rams.
had like what, like 5 interceptable passes in this game.
He did, yeah. Yeah, it was tough. And those are not always going to be not capitalized on like they were tonight.
Yeah, the story of this game, I just think, is the Dolphins' defense. 4 sacks, 3 for 12 on third down. They held the Rams to 4.8 yards per play. It's a big
Yeah.
reason why the Dolphins won, and they keep their season alive. Steelers and the Commanders. I felt like this was the most thrilling game of the week. The Steelers
Yeah.
won 27-26. When the game first started, I felt like the Steelers were about to take control of it, complete control, when they called the fake punt, and it surprised the hell out of me. And then
Yeah.
you have the gunner who dropped the pass, and it gave the Commanders perfect field position to
Yeah.
score.
Yeah, this was like that big Russell Wilson game, I think. I mean, he was good before. He was playing within the system. He had some of those big shots before this week, but he was dropping like moon ball after moon ball. George Pickens was loving it. The late one to Mike Williams. Those two receivers, Pickens and Mike Williams, like I can't think of a better duo to catch those moon balls. It's the perfect marriage. Those moon balls are like perfectly catchable balls. They're nice and soft, and you can high point them. And he's been super accurate with them. I think we've said it before, but again, like apologies to Mike Tomlin here. Russell Wilson was obviously a big upgrade over Justin Fields, and I think it's safe to say now that he just wasn't a scheme fit in Sean Payton's offense, which relies heavily on timing and doesn't really allow Russ to cook, as they say. So yeah, big upgrade. Great coaching decision once again by Mike Tomlin, who does have a good record of outsmarting the masses. He's been doing that for a long time, and this is another one. And this is interesting, but Russell Wilson currently, it's only 3 games into his Steelers tenure, but he's got the highest ADOT of his career right now at 10.8 yards.
That's what's going to happen when you have George Pickens on your team.
Yeah.
And you're throwing to him. What I was pleasantly surprised with was Jaylen Warren. I thought he gave them a big boost in the run game, and he ripped off a couple good ones. It was unfortunate that he fumbled in the red zone in the fourth quarter. That was a big time turnover and uncharacteristic from Warren. I feel like the healthier he gets, the better output they're going to get from the rushing attack, because Jaylen Warren has not been healthy all season long, and I think when he's healthy, it gives them another big play boost. And Russ had a great play to him as well when he had pressure in his face and he dumped it off to him. It was on third down to keep the drive going and keep it alive. Russell Wilson, I'm buying it. I'm buying it. I don't know, Jackson. Something about the Steelers this year just feels a little bit different. Like, I think about them going up against Baltimore this upcoming week, and I'm like, wow, Steelers defense is playing great. Their offense is finding ways to be efficient. Yes, they are a threat. They're real.
We've become conditioned to adding the but after when we're talking about the Steelers, because like, well, the Steelers defense is great, but Kenny Pickett, but Trubisky, but late era Ben Roethlisberger when his arm is a noodle at this point. Like now we're not, if at least if this holds, which it looks like it's going to hold. Like this isn't just a case where Russ is getting lucky. Like he's playing really well, and yeah, the play could fall off, but I'm feeling a lot more comfortable that it's going to stick now, especially after this week, which I think was his best game. And like there's no but anymore with the Steelers right now. It's just they're a very good defense. They're a good offense. They're efficient. They've got big play threats. They're running the ball well this year. Yeah, they need to be talked about differently than they have in the past, even if they have a similar record to what they've had in the past, because they've been for the last few years stacking solid records and making the playoffs. But this is a different team.
That's perfectly said, and I'm all for the Russell Wilson redemption arc after how he was done in Denver. Sean Payne kind of got out of character with him a little bit on the sidelines, and I think it was really immature of him for him to put Russell
Yeah.
Wilson on blast like that. So for him to play as well as he's playing right now, it is a I give Russell Wilson a lot of props, and I hope that this does stick, and I think it will. Jaden Daniels, how did you feel like he handled this big defensive test from the Steelers? I felt like he hung in the pocket pretty strong, and
Yeah.
he was solid all around. But I need to watch the all 22. I wasn't really able to fully do an analysis on his pressure response.
Yeah, he was good. It was one of his worst games, which that isn't saying like that's not me saying he was bad because he wasn't, and he's just had like only good games, and he was a little bit more inaccurate than normal. He still dropped some dimes downfield. He was a little like there was a few plays where he felt pressure and it seemed like he kind of had a little bit of like happy feet in the pocket just a little bit. I felt like he made plays but left a good amount of plays out there. And that's that you could say that about any quarterback in any week for the most part, but he hasn't been leaving as much out there as he did this week. Um, a lot of that is the Steelers defense, but um, yeah, I'd give him like a B minus for the week, which is a lower grade than he's had this season of like a B plus A minus, or actually B plus. That's underselling him. He's definitely been in like an A minus or A territory, but yeah, it's a good all 22 watch for sure.
Yeah, he was 8 for 17 on blitzes, and he was
Yeah,
blitzed 54.1% of the time against the Steelers. So they were definitely
yeah,
trying to test him and see what he's made of.
he was feeling it. Yeah,
He was, and man, that's a lot to handle. And I love their plan for trying to block T.J. Watt. There were moments where he's triple teamed, he's double teamed.
yeah,
They
uh
just were
huh.
not trying to get him any one on ones, and that's what you should do when you go up against T.J. Watt.
Yeah, no, he needs a chip anytime. And I love when you just see a team. Well, I don't love it. I love laughing at it when you see a team just try to isolate a tight end in one-on-one pass pro against him or the running back. I can totally see the Bears just leaving him unblocked and putting DeAndre Swift in a one-on-one situation with TJ Watt. That's the story of their season this year.
We'll talk about the Bears
Yeah.
in a bit. The Chiefs beat the Broncos 16-14. This is probably the most like exciting game of the week because of just the ending of it. Now, the field goal block that Leo Chanel had, it kept a strong hold that the Chiefs have on the Broncos, where the Broncos have not won in KC since 2015. And you know what pisses me off? And this is my main takeaway from the game. I feel like the Chiefs at this point, they are undefeated right now. They have won 14, 15 straight games, one of those. And people are just trying to find something to talk about with them. And it never happens to be about football. It always happens to be about the referees are favoring them. The referees are so biased against them. There's a website called NFLpenalties.com, and the Chiefs rank 23rd in beneficial penalties that are for them. So they aren't even one of the most beneficiary teams when it comes to
Yeah.
penalties. Number one, can you guess who it is?
Who?
It's the Buffalo Bills.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things like where like I feel like I make like an NBA analogy each week on the show, but like where they talk about like, oh, the Lakers are leading the NBA in free throw differential. Like, okay, they also have LeBron and AD, two of like the greatest foul drawers like in the last 30 years on the same team. They attack the rim like no other team. Like the rim attack rate is so high. They get so many shots at the rim. Like, yeah, when you do all those things, it changes it. And like, it's people just love to try to find a reason to like knock the champs or the best team. Not the Lakers are that, but like in the back to the Chiefs situation here. And it's dumb. There's always missed calls on both sides. You can nitpick and point out a couple that were missed that went in the Chiefs' favor, but like, come on, guys.
The 33rd team, I love their work. Their
Yeah.
social media team put out a tweet yesterday, and the tweet was that the Chiefs right now are undefeated. But if any of these things go differently, they would be under 500. Let's make a thread and look at all these different plays. And it's just like, really,
That's football though.
yeah,
It's
it
like
is
it's
football.
funny. It's yeah, we live in a simulation, and in any other simulation, it could, if things go differently, they could everything could be different. That's just how it goes sometimes.
Exactly. And when I look at the Chiefs, this is what how I feel about them, and the regard that I have for them and the light that I shine on them is that they just find ways to win. It doesn't matter if their defense has to be the star of the show, if it has to be Patrick Mahomes, if it has to be the special teams and Leo Chanel. This game to me was the perfect all three phases game for the Chiefs, where in the second half you had Mahomes convert these third and long situations that only Mahomes can do, and he still left a lot out on the field. He missed a touchdown pass to Xavier Worthy. He missed a touchdown pass to Travis Kelsey. And then the defense, I mean, the Broncos on third down were picking apart KC in the first half. The second half rolls around on these third downs. Spags is calling these blitzes. He's getting free rushers at Bo Nix, and Bo Nix has no platform. He has no time. There's nothing open. He takes a sack and throws it away. And then the very last play of the game, like, yes, the Broncos drive down the field on you, but then you have Leo Chanel knocking Alex Forsyth on his ass and then blocking the kick. Like, this is just a great all-around team, and they find ways to win no matter if their back is against the wall. Like Mahomes right now, he is the only player that has a win percentage above 500 when he's trailing by 10 points at any point in the game. He's 19-14. This is just what the Chiefs do.
It is, and there is kind of that like that magic feeling around it, but like to me, this is a game they should have lost. And Bo Nix was really good. He was slinging it in that first half. Like he was really slinging it. There was that great throw off play action to Cortland Sutton for that 30-yard touchdown where where Sutton beat McDuffie like really bad in press coverage off the line, and Nix hit him in stride downfield. He had some good separation, but Nix laid it out in front of him. And then the second half came, and Bo Nix only had 2 attempts in that whole second half of more than 10 yards after just dicing up the Chiefs in that first half. Um, Things just flipped. The momentum seemed to flip, and the Chiefs started clicking on offense and holding the ball for sustained stretches. But it was still a good game for Nix, and he did enough to beat Mahomes. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I think that's the major takeaway, and it's a big reason why people hate the Chiefs, right? You know, they had a negative EPA per play on offense and defense, and they still found a way to win. Last time that happened was in 2015 when the Chiefs beat the Broncos, by the way, and I think Tyreek Hill had like a punt return touchdown. It's one of those plays. I was reading on The Athletic about it. But yeah, like Bo Nix did do enough to win, and the Broncos as a whole, like the Broncos defense played well, situational football. The Chiefs were 1 for 4 in the red zone. The Nick Bonito was in the backfield all day long. I mean, Mahomes, that
Yeah.
left tackle situation is a major problem for the Chiefs. And then Bo
Hmm.
Nix, like he made awesome throws, and the third and eighth throw, which is the one I want to highlight the most, it showed how he was able to problem solve on the fly. The previous third downs that he was facing before that drive, Spagnola would dial up blitzes and pressure him and throw him off his platform. And once he got to the top of his drop, he had nowhere to go. He was a sitting duck. So you get a similar pressure look on that third and eight, and Bo Nix instantly starts to be mobile after the ball is snapped because he doesn't want to be a sitting duck. He wants to give Sutton time for his route to develop so he can hit him, and then the blitz doesn't come, so you have all this open space in the middle of the pocket. He steps up into it and he makes an excellent throw on the run. And yeah, like this was a game that the Broncos should have won. And they are ahead of schedule in so many ways. Defense is playing really well. Bo Nix is starting to play well and he's figuring it out. And Sean Payne is calling a good game. So all around, like the Broncos are ahead of schedule. And even though this was a heartbreaking loss, you can hang your hat on the fact that we should have won the game. And this rookie quarterback on the road did enough for us to win the game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally agree with you.
The Bengals and Ravens. Ravens won 35-34. This feels like it was ages and decades ago because it was on Thursday. The Bengals were
Yeah.
up 21-7 at one point. And I just have to ask you, like, what are the chances that the Bengals make the playoffs? Because there's zero room for error. They have Joe Burrow, right? But this year they have the leading passer in terms of yards, leading receiver in terms of yards, the sack leader with Trey Hendrickson, and they're 4-6. And you look at their remaining schedule, they have the Chargers, the Steelers twice, and the Broncos. Those are all teams in the playoff race. And a team like the Bengals, they have not shown to be as well coached as any of these teams.
Yeah, and if they had even just a solid or average defense, I would still be like slightly bullish on that, but they don't. It's so bad. And week in and week out, it's free points. There was a Lamar just tore it apart, but there was one throw that was like very telling where they were playing a quarters half field coverage, and they somehow Lamar was able to throw a hole shot against quarters, which if you guys aren't familiar, a few weeks ago we talked about this. A hole shot is like it's in cover two. It's the soft spot in between the flat defender, which is the underneath zone closest to the boundary, and then the deep half defender over the top. There's a soft space between that where you can push one vertical in between that and rifle that in there. Now, that should never be possible against quarters because you've got like the two safeties over 1 and 2, they're 1 and 2 receivers out to the outside, and somehow Lamar, it was DJ Turner who was completely lost, playing way off, and Lamar threw. It was an awesome play by Lamar. He put it like back shoulder to protect him from coverage. This has been easily, in my opinion, Lamar's best year as a passer. He's been so good. He's been consistent. Like hats off to Lamar as a true all around quarterback this year. But this was one of those throws. But like just the fact that you can like rip a hole shot type throw into a quarters half field coverage is just insane. Like that's so telling of your defense and how clueless everyone is as to assignments and just chemistry. And yeah, it was really rough. And I think that those type of plays have just become a staple in this defense, and the coverage is lapses at all the wrong times. The run fits are not there. As good as the offense is, and like Jamar is easily, I think, the second best receiver in the league. I don't think there's an argument. And if you want to argue he's number one, I wouldn't argue you much on it. Like, I think there's a take there. He's certainly the most dynamic all around playmaker after the catch. Like not just straight line speed, obviously that's Tyreek, but like just all around playmaker in terms of just being dynamic with the ball. He's got so much juice and it's so valuable. I like Jefferson has more of an ability to consistently get open with his like kind of awkward gait and like the way he just kind of stumbles around and you can't read his movements at all, and he can like stem these routes out of these awkward like body angles that you just have no idea like where he's going because of the way he just like naturally runs. But it Chase Jamar doesn't have that, but he's still a great route runner, and he's just got much more juice after the catch. And like, yeah, Chase Brown is good. He had a great RBIS score this week, 5.8, 38% missed tackles forced per attempt rate. Like their offense is really good. It just sucks that their defense is this bad. And because the defense is this bad, I'm kind of out. I'm more out than in on them making the playoffs. Much more out right now.
Lamar Jackson is having this spectacular MVP season. On third down in the second half against the Bengals, he was 7 for 7, 133 yards, and 3 passing touchdowns. He was dicing the Bengals defense up. But
as everyone does.
Yes. It leads into another question. And we talk about the Bengals defense, but what about the Ravens? The Ravens 30th in
Yeah.
dropback EPA per play this year. 23rd in success rate. Their DVOA, which adjusts for strength and opponent, the Ravens have faced out of the 9 opponents 6 of the top 10 offenses in the NFL. They're 16th in DVOA. But this is not a defense that you can rely on. And it's a
Not at
couple
all.
things like Zach Orr's scheme, the lack of a pass rush. They really have to send blitzers to generate that.
Coverage breakdowns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This defense just feels like a defense that's waiting to let Lamar Jackson down in the biggest moment of the season.
It does. Yeah, it really does. This is the worst defense that I can at least remember that Lamar has had, which sucks because it's Lamar's like best season yet. And if you could just give them any other unit, I mean, this team would be like one of like the best teams of the last like 5-6 years if they had like a top 5-ish defense or even like a top 8 defense. But yeah, I know their defense. I think coverage is the biggest issue right now with it, and particularly after the catch. I mean, some of the angles they were taking on Jamar Chase, like after he on those catch and runs, were abysmal. They're really struggling right now.
They are, and that's something we have to keep an eye on. The Lions and Texans. The Lions won 26-23. How the hell do the Texans lose a game where they're up 23-7?
Yeah, and a game where Goff just plays terrible and throws 5 picks.
How are you going to beat the Lions if Goff is throwing 5 picks and they're still winning?
Yeah, I mean, it was an ugly game from both quarterbacks. Stroud obviously had a lot of weapons out. Well, Diggs we know is done. And Nico, that's a pretty big weapon to be out. He should probably be back next week. But yeah, it was weird. It was just like turnover after turnover. It was like unwatchable, but in a weird way. Normally the unwatchable games are like the 3-3 games where there's no first downs and you're punting every like every drive after like gaining nothing. But this was like the opposite where it was unwatchable in terms of just like bad ball downfield. It was vertical. It was like fun-ish, but unwatchable at the same time. It was weird. But Goff really, really, really struggled under pressure. And this has been the story of Goff for a long time. It's been masked mostly because the Lions offensive line is really good, but he was pressured 10 times, which was 32% of his dropbacks. And he on those 10 plays, he was 2 for 10 with 2 turnover worthy plays, 1 interception. That's the game plan to beating the Lions is get pressure on Goff. You need edge rushers.
So he had those other 4 interceptions with a clean pocket.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It was a bad Jared Goff game. It felt like it was kind of due after just being on a complete heater. The pressure is still a concern, and I know that Lions fans are going to pull out numbers like, this year he's been really good under pressure. And that is true. But it's more so a history of Goff more than just this season Goff. And
we know who he is. Like guys, you can mask it for a few games if like it happens. But like a guy like Goff, he has the tools he has. He is who he is. He's a good quarterback. I don't think there's like this like I don't side with the holding out hope that because in like a small sample he improved versus pressure, he's all of a sudden a good quarterback versus pressure.
Yeah, I do think that he's playing at a high level. But Lions
he is. Oh, for sure.
Is they have a great infrastructure.
Yeah.
When I think about this game, I just think about the Texans' inability to put it away. Their defense is 3rd in DVOA this year. Their offense is 23rd. But this is the major problem with the Texans' offense. I always say Bobby Slowik has been terrible this year, and that is all true. But the main reason why he's been terrible is he is so stubborn, and he keeps running on 1st and 2nd down. On early downs, the Texans are 29th in EPA per play. They're 31st in success rate. There are 36 quarterbacks this year that have at least 20 dropbacks of 3rd and long, so 3rd and 7 or more. CJ Stroud has the most with 72, and he's top 5 in EPA on those throws. They are putting CJ Stroud in these situations where they're saying, save us. And for me, I'm just like, listen, the simple fix to this is just call a pass play on first down. That's what you have
Yeah.
to do. Try to gain like 4 yards with the pass or 5 on first down, and then run the ball, get your 2 yards, and you're in a 3rd and 3 situation. It's a much easier situation to manage.
Yeah, and like I want to say that like part of that would be because of the situation with their weapons right now and all the injuries, but it's it's been the case when everyone was healthy too. So yeah, it's one of those stubborn situations where I mean, running on second and long is like one of the worst play calls in all of sports in terms of just like if it's 2nd and 10 and you're running it up the gut, what are you doing? And they seem to do that all the time. And I don't have the stats on that, but from a vibes feeling, it seems like it's all the time.
It does, and I don't know. This team, it just feels like Nico Collins is going to help a lot.
Yeah,
It just doesn't feel like the
he is.
vibes are that good. Joe Mixon, 1.8 yards per carry against
Yep,
a stout Lions run defense. And people said, once Joe Mixon gets back, oh, this run game is going to be fixed. It's like,
that's not how the run game works.
it is
Yep.
not. it
they People see it happen in a game and they're like, "Oh my god, look at how good Joe Mixon looks in a game where he had like 3 yards before contact, which is like almost twice the average." Like, okay, if that keeps happening, yeah, he's going to cook, but their O-line's not good. It's going to regress. They're not going to be moving bodies like they were in was that the Bengals game I think where he just ran completely
The
wild. That was a
Colts
long
week 1 was
week
also the
1.
the
Yeah.
best game of the season for him.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, yeah, plugging a running back in it does not fix anything. It helps your high end outcomes. And if you can get him in space, it helps a lot to have a good running back. But if you can't get a running back in space, if your O line can't open holes, it does not matter.
Yeah, it's all about the foundation. And this next game we're going to talk about Patriots and Bears. Patriots beat the Bears 19-3. The Bears foundation is terrible. And
Yeah.
when I was going over my week 10 picks, I was thinking about picking the Patriots over the Bears because
I was too.
I was like, listen, if the Cardinals were able to get like freaking 40 pressures on the Bears, I think the Patriots can look that elite against them too. And I turned out to be right, but I didn't trust my gut and I didn't pick the Patriots to win. I also thought Drake May would play better than Caleb Williams as well.
Yeah.
Drake May, let's touch on that a little bit. What do you have to say about Drake May?
Yeah, he's got a knack for just being a freaking playmaker and like gunner. Like he slings it outside the pocket. He's been pressured just like we knew he would be with this O line. He can scoot. He's a little faster than I think like was anticipated. Like he's quick and he's long, but he's lanky, but he breaks like these arm tackles and he gets out of like the defensive ends diving at him when he's trying to run out of the pocket. Like there was that one that it didn't count, but he was running right. He broke out of the pocket and uh, an edge defender dove at his legs and kind of clipped him a little bit, but he just ran straight through it. And then just before he went out of bounds, he slung it to the back or to the corner of the end zone. It was caught for a touchdown. It was there was a penalty, I think, on Osborne for something that called it back. But he makes like a few plays a week where it's off script. You see the arm, you see his like just the scrambling, the like off script playmaking ability that we knew he had, but that he's been forced to show that more than he should because of the problems with their O line. And he definitely outplayed Caleb this week. And um, do you want to set up the Caleb thing or
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't close the way that Drake May outplayed him. To your point about
yeah,
pressure, Drake May, when pressured this year, 6th in EPA per dropback, 10th in success rate, and 9th in first down and touchdown rate. Jacoby Brissett with those same categories was 24th, 19th, and 24th. Drake May has brought life to this offense, and like you said, he's able to create things when nothing is there.
how would Drake May ever have been able to do this if he didn't sit for 4 weeks behind Jacoby Brissett and learn first? Who
That was
like
important.
that was no.
It's this Drake May. He just used this phrase when we were with Theo, or I believe someone else, but I remember you used this phrase: "A throw that beats coverage," and I think you
Yeah.
used it with Bo Nix when talking about the Panthers game. And
Yeah.
that's what Drake May does. Like his throws, it doesn't matter how tight the window is. Like we saw the throw he made to Hunter Henry. He just beats coverage with throws. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're
He
blinking it
throws
all
them
over
open.
somebody.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like he just makes things happen. And that's what I feel like Caleb is not doing enough of. I know the situation with Caleb is terrible. I also don't think he's exempt from blame. I look back at the 9 sacks. I think that 2 were his fault, 7 were not. The biggest problem with the Bears right now is that the offensive design just doesn't make sense. Like
It's
the
so
route
dumb.
concepts, it's all vertical. There's so much width, and everything is so far away from the quarterback. So when he's
It's
pressured, it's so tough to get to those areas.
it's like shocking. It's literally like shit that like your average high school coach could scheme up space or could get receivers into space better than Shane Waldron has been able to. Like this offense is completely allergic to spacing. It's allergic to logic. I mean, the amount of times that they're putting DeAndre Swift on like a free rushing blocker, like linebacker or edge or stunt pickup, whatever, it's insane. And he also Swift has blown so many blitz pickups, but that's who he is in blitz pickup, and to trust him is telling in itself. But then to actually, yeah, to call that, there have been so many plays where the spacing just there's routes running into other routes. There's everyone going vertical with like no check down option. There's like leverage issues where you've got like an out running into a defender with outside leverage, and it's like there was the rollouts. There was one where Caleb was rolling left and they had a hitch called to on the left side. There was only 2 routes he could possibly read. There was a hitch, which is the timing of that just doesn't make very much sense for a rolling to the left, by the way. So for Caleb to throw, he's a right-handed quarterback. He's got to flip his hips. And like, that's a lot of time to flip over to throw to a hitch where you're worried about the defender jumping that route. That's like the number one concern with the hitch route is
And
like,
also, it was a hitch that was like 2 to 3 yards.
yeah, and so the hitch happened like well before Caleb realistically could have flipped his hips and set his feet. And then the only other route was like this like intermediate like out into outside leverage man coverage that was not coming open, and if it did come open, it wasn't going to come open in time. And there was no other options. And Caleb just kind of had to fall down because, like, what else is he going to do? There's no more option. If that out's taken away, the hitch is going to be taken away, or at least you should know. Um, I mean, I guess maybe they were hoping the defender on the hitch sagged deep to take the out route, but like you're doing all this to get a 2-yard hit. Man, it was bad. There was in the first half, I think it was, with like a minute left, 2-minute drill on their own 40. They have no timeouts. They ran a run up the middle. It was a draw to Roshan Johnson. Like there is nothing going for this. And there was a video I saw of Caleb and Waldron sitting on the bench, just not talking. The vibes suck. Eberflus needs to go. The whole staff needs to go. I mean, this is very, very scary for a rookie quarterback to be in this situation. And he has been inaccurate. Like, I'm not taking all the blame off him. He needs to make more throws. There's been some throws that he's late on, that he's just straight up inaccurate on. There's been a lot of those, but my God, like, he's getting no help. And the DJ Moore thing is an issue, especially on the all 22. Like, he's he doesn't look like he's running his routes at full speed. He's drifting. There's a lot of that too. Like on these out routes, like these receivers, they're running outs and drifting further upfield, and you can't have that.
Yeah, and
And
I feel like is that like a problem with they just don't like the coach, or you think they just don't like Caleb? I don't know what it is. I
yeah,
don't have an answer to
we
that.
can't know. Yeah, it's something. I don't think it's that they don't like Caleb, because when Caleb was playing well, the vibe seemed good. And like for that stretch where it was like 2, 3 games, like it seemed like the vibes were there. So I feel like it's kind of a coaching disaster class, and then just having no faith in the team. And yeah, they need to fix this before it's too late.
That's a more reasonable explanation. I think right now what we're seeing, this is a wasted season from the Bears. It's
Yeah.
you throw it in the garbage, you crumble it up, it's gone. Like nothing matters this year because the coaching staff that you have in place, which you probably should have been aware of before the season started, this is probably not the coaching staff that you're going to have long term. After
Yeah.
this year, it's like you went into the season expecting to miss the playoffs, so then you can fire that coaching staff. And if that's the case, get a brand new coaching staff in there.
You
Why
know,
even waste your time?
this is, I believe, I'm pretty sure this is the third time the Bears have done this. I think that when Mitch Trubisky came in, they fired the head coach. I think that was Fox right after his first year. And then they did the same thing with Justin Fields after his first year, where you're taking this rookie quarterback, throwing him in the fire, and then making him learn a whole new offense in his second year. And now it's about to happen to Caleb too. I mean, the Bears, my God, like this is terrible, terrible franchise work. Like, man,
It's awful. And I know that people are so quick to put the blame on Caleb. It's easy. He's an easy target. And I don't respect when somebody's an easy target and people just want to slander them without understanding the context of the situation, especially when all the hype that he has around him was built up from the media. Like how many sports shows that we get in the summer from ESPN, Fox Sports, or just social media in general? Caleb Williams has too many weapons to fail. Caleb Williams is in the best position of any first overall pick in
yeah,
NFL history. They propped him up. Nick Wright had the Bears making the freaking Super Bowl because Caleb Williams was going to be so special. They hyped him up, and that's why there's so much vitriol to him playing bad right now, because it's a lot of people that got mad about those hyped up takes in the offseason, and now that he's playing bad, they're seeing, see, we told you, he sucks. He's not good. He's a bust. When in reality, maybe everybody overrated the situation Caleb went into. He had talent, and those receivers, they are talented. But here's the thing. If you don't have a good coach, if you don't have a good play designer, you can make great talent look trash. And that's what's happening with
yeah.
the Bears.
Yeah, I know scheme matters so much. And yeah, it's easy to say he's got weapons, and he does. Like a top 10 pick, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen coming off a good year last year. Like he did, but no one was talking about how bad the O-line has been. No one was talking about how shaky the scheme is. Justin Fields was talking about how shaky the coaching was, but the media wasn't.
JSN
S-
was talking about how shaky the scheme
JSN.
was.
Yep, yep. Yeah, yeah. So I Fields, I think, was talking about Eberflus in general, but yeah. Waldron was the JSN on that podcast or whatever it was. But yeah, I think that this kind of gives like Trevor Lawrence rookie year Urban Meyer vibes of like throw it out and let's see what next year looks like. I think he's a special talent. I think he's in a situation that is just you can't succeed in this.
I agree. Cardinals beat the Jets 31-6. Jets season is over. They're 3-7. Just a terribly run organization operation. I'm done talking about it. Two things with the
Yep.
Cardinals. Is the Cardinals defense real? I'm gonna give you some numbers that maybe
Yeah.
will back it up. Right? They have not allowed a touchdown in the last 3 home games. Versus the Jets, they generated 16 pressures from 10 different players, and they blitz 42.1% of the time. This is hilarious because this jump is incredible. Versus the Bears, they generated 36 pressures from 16 different players. They blitz 42% of the time. And versus the
Wow.
Chargers, 24 pressures. They blitz 31.8% of the time. They are 4-0 when they get 20 pressures or more. And I think I might have slipped up on the Jets. I think it was 26 pressures, not 16 pressures. Um, I'm going to fact check that in a bit. But here's the thing. Even with all those numbers and with them being 14th in DVOA right now, they're 26th in EPA per play, and they're 31st in success rate as a defense overall. Are you buying into this defense and what they're doing?
So they're kind of like what I call like a scheme floor situation, where when you've got a good scheme and Gannon he's got a good scheme, the floor isn't the talent, the floor is the scheme. And the scheme put so like they're lacking in talent. They don't have a ton of talent on this team, but they have a good scheme. And because they have that, these players, they're in more advantageous situations, leverage wise, matchup wise, game plan wise. They come in to the game well prepared and they know what to do because the scheme is good and it holds everything together like glue. And obviously, I think a good analogy here or comparison here is like what happened with Brian Flores last year, where that talent on the Vikings defense was abysmal last year. They had nothing, and the defense wasn't good. They were all right. But then now you give them some good talent, and they're a great or very, very good defense. I don't think they're like great, but they're very good. They're certainly a better defense than the talent should indicate they are. And so with a team like this, like yeah, they're going to be very disciplined. The scheme is good. So they'll have games where they just show up and show out. The game planning is really good. When you put NFL athletes in positions to succeed, even if they're not great caliber players, they can overperform their baseline. And I think that's kind of what we've seen in given weeks with the Cardinals this year.
I agree with you. It's very game by game dependent. And this is going to sound harsh, but I think that the Cardinals defense only looks good against inept offensive operations. The Bears, the New York Jets, against the
Hmm.
Dolphins, they only generated 6 pressures and they blitzed 40% of the time. Only generated 6 pressures. I think the Cardinals defense, they are just very funky. Like they just throw things at the wall and against these teams that they're like, you know what? We're just gonna blitz the hell out of you and we're gonna speed up your process because you know what? We've seen the Jets and we've seen the Bears offensive line on film. You guys don't know what you're doing. And we're just gonna take advantage of that. I thought
Yeah.
Brandon Browning was a huge pickup for them because it gives them like a
Yeah.
formidable pass rushing presence. But I think the Cardinals defense is okay. You know, I think their DVOA, which adjusts for opponent, is it's 14th right now. So they are very much a team that is being elevated from that scheme, and they have some players that are young playing well. Kyler Murray, I think he deserves more recognition. I put out a tweet that he's playing as an MVP candidate, and then some replies, decided to be dense on purpose by saying, "Oh, is he playing better than Lamar or Joe Burrow or this or that?" No, it's
Hmm.
Kyler Murray is
Candidate.
playing. Yes, he's playing elite level football, which is just the main takeaway.
Hmm.
92% completion percentage essentially against the Jets. I had no faith that the Jets were going to stop the Cardinals. I'm a true fan, so I watched up until the fourth quarter, and then I had to turn it off for my own sanity. I just, every third down situation, oh my goodness, they scored on every drive that was actually within the flow of the game where they were trying. Like, it was unbelievable what was
Yeah.
happening. Kyler, 266 yards, 3 total touchdowns. But on the season, he's second in QBR, 16 total touchdowns to 5 turnovers, 6 in adjusted EPA per play, fourth in success rate, and he leads the NFL in game-winning drives with 3 this year. I mean, Kyler Murray, he is very well showing everybody how good he is when he's healthy and how much he lifts the floor of this Cardinals team.
Yeah, he's having a great year. I watching the game, it felt like he was pushing the ball downfield a lot. He had that like seam ripper to McBride, who's just like a cent. Like I keep saying this, he is the best tight end in the league right now. I think this was his third game in a row with a hurdle. Like I get it's a hurdle, like it's a splash play. It only accounts for the amount of yards that he earns regardless. But like that, it shows the matchup nightmare that he is. Like, you've got linebackers trying to match up with this guy who's jumping over DBs 20 yards downfield and maintaining his balance after that. He's so fluid in his breaks. And Kyler has been good about just dumping it off to him and letting him go. And like that, the hurdle came after he broke. It was like a 3-yard shallow route where he just breaks this, like, his momentum stopped for like a second or two, and then he breaks the tackle and goes downfield and just jumps over. Like, he's a freak. And I, watching the all 22, I was like shocked because there were so many screens, and like my memory was like, oh my God, he's been pushing it. I wonder what his ADOT is. He had a 4.9 ADOT this week, which is like hilariously low, but that's not to like say that he wasn't pushing it. He had a lot of, like, there were a lot of screens behind the line of scrimmage. There was that one big play to James Conner, and a handful of shallow underneath throws. But when he was pushing it, he was very accurate. He was hitting McBride downfield. He was hitting Marvin Harrison Jr. over the middle. He's playing really well. And like, I think that to say he's playing like an MVP candidate, and being careful with the words of not saying like the MVP, I think there's truth to that.
Yeah, I do too. Marvin Harrison Jr., he completely annihilated the DJ Reed matchup. I mean,
Yeah,
he didn't
he
even
did.
stand a chance. My goodness. I was like, just shadow him with sauce. Like, what's going on? Some
Yeah.
things are, I guess, too complicated for these defensive coaches to think about. But 49ers and Buccaneers, the 49ers won 23-20. Jake Moody hit a 44-yard game-winning field goal that it almost missed.
Yeah,
which
there were a
would
lot
have
of
been a
those.
surprise. Yeah, because he missed 3 field goals in this game. And
Yeah.
there was also a muff punt in this game that led to a Buccaneers touchdown. And we had touched on this before when I mentioned the problems with the 49ers. Their special teams is one of the worst units in the NFL. And just in this game alone, you have a muff punt that led to a touchdown. That's 7 points. And you had 3 missed field goals. They left 16 points on the board. And that was the reason why this game was so close.
Yeah, there were a lot of games like that. Like, even the Lions game, like, there were 2 field goals that were literally made by like 2 inches away from hitting the crossbar. Koo was like missing kicks all game. I mean, yeah, 49ers Bucks, Purdy wasn't, he was fine-ish.
Purdy
like
was great. Oh, no, Purdy was great.
You think so? I didn't
so.
think so.
I looked at the drive that really moved me the most. CMC out the backfield against the linebacker, against Levante David.
Mm-hmm.
He releases that ball with great anticipation. And then he just trusts CMC to win with pressure in his face. And then a touchdown to George Kittle where he bought time and hit him. I mean,
that was a great throw.
And then he led the game-winning drive as well that put the kicker in position to make the game-winning field goal. I actually had a category for those plays. It's called Purdy Good Plays. Purdy Good Plays is really good. I mean, Brock Purdy was awesome in this game. I can't take nothing away from him.
I mean, he did his thing. He was accurate underneath. He had that great throw to Kittle. He made some plays. I felt like he left a lot out there. This Bucs defense is not good. I think that he struggled to finish drives throughout this game. But hey, I'll let you. I'll give it to you for creating that acronym or whatever that was. Pretty good. What was it?
Purdy Good Plays.
Pretty good plays. All right, you can take this one. McCaffrey's back, struggled a bit rushing the ball. 1.6 RBIS score this week, did not force a single missed tackle. Only 2.1 yards after contact. This is to be expected, though. Don't know yet if it's rust or if he's playing hurt. That Baker, that stiff arm on Joey Bosa was like,
Nick Bosa,
that was,
yes.
Or sorry, Nick Bosa. That was the play of the week for sure. I mean,
there's some jokes on the internet about that play.
Oh yeah, the political jokes. I saw those. But yeah, the way that he's like, just the arm strength he got on that was crazy. Like, he's running for like 10 yards backwards, just holding him at bay, and then just slings it to Rachaad White. Man, get Baker's weapons back, because he was having a damn good year with Godwin and Evans, but sad to see.
I know he only had 116 yards in this game. I mean, the Buccaneers have such a great offensive line that it gives them a high floor. Like on his dropbacks, he had a clean pocket on 72% of them. They're always going to give him a very high floor, but they just have no weapons. Rashad White was the leading receiver in this one. They
Yeah.
got something going in the run game with Bucky Irving a little bit, but not enough to really put a big dent. But yeah, 49ers beat the Bucks. I think the Bucks, despite not being or having the best record in the NFC South, I think they are the best team in the NFC South. I'm not that
Still,
big on the fight. I'm not that big on the Falcons. Sorry, and we'll talk
what
about
is
them when we
the
talk about them.
what is the injury report looking like for Mike Evans?
I
Do you
don't
know
know. I
when he's
couldn't.
supposed to be back?
I probably would say like in like a week or two, and
Okay.
I think Tristan Wirfs got hurt. I'm not sure. I have
Yeah.
to check that, but the Buccaneers, they are relying on their weapons and they lost them. So I mean,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it's probably gonna result in them missing the playoffs because of what they lost. To be honest.
yeah, I'm looking forward to your takes on the Falcons here because I think the Falcons are taking that division. But
Oh, I think they are too.
okay,
I
okay.
don't think the Bucks are taking it, but I think
You
the
think they're the
Falcons are.
best team?
Yes, I think if they were
Okay.
healthy, they would be the best team.
Okay,
Or at
that's
least if they
fair.
just have Mike Evans. If they just get Mike Evans back, I think they can go on a little bit of a run and then take that division. But it just depends on how long he's going to be out.
Okay, gotcha.
Bills versus Colts. The Bills won 30-20, and the major takeaway from this one is just, I mean, Flacco's 1 and
What
3
are
as the
we?
Colts starter. He had 4
What are we
turnovers.
fucking doing?
3 interceptions, 1 fumble. I mean, I think it's time to get Anthony Richardson back in here. The Colts schedule lightens up a little bit. They face the Jets, Lions, Patriots, Broncos, Titans, Giants, Jaguars. Like 2 of those teams scare me. The rest of them could be great Anthony Richardson games. So
Yeah,
I'd get him out there right now. Like, what are we waiting
yeah,
for? We have the Jets. Jonathan Taylor is going to take a lot of pressure off you. They're very vulnerable. Let's get him going and let's have him win the game. Like, stop wasting time with Joe Flacco. It's done. It's over.
yeah. This is not like the Joe Flacco Browns thing last year where he came in and like actually gave the team a boost. He's got 6 turnover worthy plays in 2 games since he took this job over. Anthony Richardson had 8 in 6 games. 3 times the game, only 2 more turnover worthy plays. And that's the main thing. I mean, there were a lot of things we were knocking Anthony Richardson over, most of them rightfully so. But like Joe Flacco's turning it over just as much, and you're getting no investment on that. You're getting no return on that investment. Like you're rolling out a 40-year-old quarterback for a team that is bad. Like I think that the organization bought too into the fact that like were they four? I think they were 4-3 at one point.
4-4, yeah, around there, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I think they bought too into that. Like, oh, we're a solid team, and we're 4-4 with this quarterback who's been turning the ball over and missing receivers all game. If we just get a quarterback that can throw it, we'll be a really good. No, anyone watching knew they were not a good team. Like they were overperforming. They were winning close games in weird lucky way. Like they were not a high performing 4-4 team. And they made that switch. Now it's very clear that it was dumb. The season is lost. The one thing to take away should be Anthony Richardson reps and development. And that starts with getting reps because he's just not had many reps. And he's healthy, get him out there. What the fuck are we doing right now? Yeah, on the other side, Josh Allen was awesome. Greg Rousseau and Von Miller both dominated off the edges. 22.7% and 31.3% pass rush win rates, respectively, for them. That's going to be really important to sustain going into the playoffs. And that's a big part of why I think the Bills are front of the line contenders right now. Not the top team, but front of the line, top 3, 4.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. The Bills were awesome in this game. They dominated pretty much in the second half. I like this little rivalry that Josh Allen had with Odengbo going
Yeah.
on with the Colts over there. Odengbo kind of did some dirty stuff where after the play was dead, he was like punching Josh Allen in the helmet and like punching him in the face. But Odengbo is actually a player I've been keeping my eye on. And this year, he has a 17% win rate in true pass rush sets. Like he is their
That's
second
really
best.
good.
Yeah, he is their second best pass rusher this year. I believe he's a free agent after this season as well. So he's going to be a
Hmm.
young pass rusher on the market. I think he could definitely help a lot of teams. But Eagles and Cowboys, the Eagles won 34-6. Now, just two things. One is a question for you. Are the Cowboys the worst team in the NFL? I heard Colin Cowherd say that they're the worst team because he at least trusts that Jacksonville could muster up one offensive drive. I mean, are the
Yeah.
Cowboys the worst? Because this defense in the first half actually played really well against the Eagles, but they could do nothing offensively. And then in the second half, everything just came spiraling down. You got some Trey Lance snaps at the very end there, and he threw an interception.
Let's get more of them.
Yeah,
Fuck
let's
it.
see what he has. But I think
Like,
the Cowboys
yeah.
are in that mode. Like they are just playing for nothing. Dak is out for the year, and this is a dead season. It's over.
I just want to talk about the lighting situation in the stadium. Um, I think it's so funny how, like, referencing that play where CeeDee Lamb is in the end zone and could not find the ball because of the fact that Jerry Jones built a stadium where the sunlight shines on one random team, whatever team happens to be looking into the sun at that time. It just completely gives that team a disadvantage. And he talks about how, like, oh, we know where the sun's going to be before the game, blah blah blah. It can be a disadvantage for the other team too. Sure, but when we're building stadiums, you're trying to manufacture an advantage for the home team. Like, stadiums are strategically built in different ways where, like, sound is funneled in the right way so that the fans can cheer at the right time to give you the advantage or to give the opposing team a disadvantage. That is what you go for. But when you just manufacture something like a lighting situation that can randomly go for you or against you, that's not helping. Yes, it could go against the other team, and it has gone against the other team, but it's not consistently like that, like sound, or like when you manufacture that sound dispersal where it helps you, that is controllable. But the sun isn't. And so by adding that, you're adding an outside factor to the game of football that has no strategic advantage for or against you. And that's not how you win football games. And that's the part that, like, is just completely amiss to Jerry Jones right now. And, like, it's so triggering seeing that in, like, 2024. Like, it's an indoor stadium and we're still dealing with the fucking sun, like, just absolutely glaring. And imagine the fans that have to, like, look into that too. Like, man, that's those seats have got to be much cheaper than the opposite side seats.
I mean,
I
Jerry
would
Jones
think.
doesn't even care about the fans like that. I mean, he built like this
Yeah.
thing where fans can kind of like have like on the field vision of the game, but it's like just a mosh pit. So if you're in it, you really can't even see the game because there's
Oh
so many people
wow.
in front of you, like in rows. Yeah, and I think it's just like first come first serve kind of vibe. I don't know if I'm like getting
Wow.
that mistaken, but I know this stadium is very weird. Like like Cowboys players have talked about practicing and they have like these glass windows where fans can just look at them like they're in a fucking zoo. So, it's just the Cowboys, I just don't like how they're run right now operationally.
Yeah,
I think
for
Jerry
sure.
Jones is a terrible owner. I wanted to mention this one thing about the Eagles. One player on the Eagles, actually, that's a lie. A lot of defensive players on the Eagles have caught my eye. There's
Yeah,
one that I want to
there's a lot of
spotlight
talent.
this week specifically. Zach Bond,
Yeah, he
converted
played
edge
great.
rusher from the Saints. These are now 3 straight weeks where he has a 90 plus PFF grade. And this year, he has 40 defensive stops, which leads the NFL amongst all linebackers. I can't remember the last time that the Eagles have had a linebacker that can tackle this well. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's Zach Bond's superpower. He is so fast downhill. He is aggressive. He's physical. And once he gets hands on you, you're going down. He's a sure tackler, and it's what the Eagles desperately needed last year against the run. And this year, Zach Bond has really helped them out in that area a lot.
Yeah, and his coverage too. Like that's been to me, I just always like significantly value coverage reps over run defense. Like run defense, you need a high floor, but he's been a great run defender too. I'm not taking that from him. I'm just skewing more into celebrating his coverage ability, which has been great. And him and Dean have been working, playing together on a string. They've been taking away everything underneath. Like watching their 822 tape and just the way that they get into their drops and then exchange different routes and flow together, it's beautiful. And like we talked about it last week, the Fangio defense, the Fangio principles have set in, and everyone knows what they're doing now. There's no more assignment issues. Things are just they're all what they're playing, like they're one big like brain all functioning as one. And it's beautiful to see right now. And Jalen Hurts has also been playing really well. He led all QBs in big time throws this week with 4. He was pushing it down the field. He was tied for the highest A dot at 12.7 yards per throw. So yeah, I mean, this team looks scary right now. They look like the Eagles of 2 years ago.
They do. They do. And a big game against Washington on Thursday Night Football that we're going to tune into. Titans
Yeah.
versus Chargers. The Chargers won 27-17. Really not much to take away from this game. I mean, Justin Herbert was incredible once again. He was like near perfect this game. The defense was pretty awesome. But here's the thing. Can the Chargers pass their real tests? That's my major takeaway. I think the Chargers are legit. But
Yeah.
based off their schedule, the Chargers have beaten all of their 6 wins have come against Will Levis, Jameis Winston, Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix, Bryce Young, Gardner Minshew, and not even the revitalized version of Bryce Young. We're talking about early season Bryce Young in the gutter, playing with no confidence.
Not the 2-0 Bryce Young in the last 2 weeks.
Not that one. The next 6 games, they face Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Kirk Cousins, Patrick Mahomes, and Baker Mayfield. And Bo Nix is the last one, and Bo Nix is playing better. So this is my question for the Chargers, my takeaway. Can the Chargers pass these real tests? This stretch that they're about to go on is going to show us. And the reason I think they will is I think this is just a great vibes team. Like Jim Harbaugh has everybody bought in. Justin Herbert is playing with a smile on his face and increased level of toughness. I love what the Chargers got going on. And I do think they will pass this test, but that is a question for them.
Yeah, Justin Herbert has been excellent. That's certainly a question rolling into that. I don't think Herbert is at all the question. The question is going to be, can the offense keep up with other high level offenses, and can the defense continue shutting down higher level quarterbacks, whereas they've been shutting down lower level quarterbacks very consistently. The defense has been absolutely tremendous. But one thing I want to mention was we were talking earlier about throws that beat coverage, and obviously Herbert does a lot of that. But there was one throw, particularly, it was the touchdown to Quentin Johnston, who's kind of becoming a guy now where if he's not pressed, he can make some plays. He's fast. He's catching the ball better than he was before, and he's good after the catch because he's a big, strong, and fast. But that touchdown throw, Herbert was reading the leverage. It was of this like zone defender that was dropping back, and it was this incredible like anticipation throw where he was reading that because the defender was picking up this crosser from Quentin Johnston from underneath, and his leverage was coming towards Quentin Johnston, whereas Quentin Johnston was like crossing over the top, and the defender had his body facing inside to the middle of the field. And so Herbert threw it. He threw the receiver open over the top of the underneath zone dropping defender, but he also threw with this like level of anticipation where he's beating coverage and anticipating that because the leverage is inside, he's going to be breaking open at this point. But then even after he breaks open, he still needs a throw that beats the coverage in order for that play to be makeable by Quentin Johnston. And he did both those things, which is like a very, very high level throw and just a high level read by Herbert. And that's just the level he's been playing on. He had 3 big time throws this week. It was tied for second, 15.8% big time throw rate, tied for second, only behind Jalen Hurts. And like he's been dominating every game with subpar weapons, sometimes without all of his O line playing. Which isn't even that good. We talked about it last week. They're like the Vikings O line, where they've got 2 bookend tackles and a lot of questions inside. But I mean, yeah, Herbert should be giving them a chance. And then defensively, again, Jesse Minter was great. And I just want to talk about how many coaching candidates there are right now. Jim Harbaugh just was talking on the Pat McAfee show and he said that Jesse Minter will be a head coach next year. Probably. Like it's trending that way for sure. But like Ben Johnson, Jesse Minter, Brian Flores, Todd Monken, even like guys who've been coached, like Bill Belichick, Cliff Kingsbury is coaching his way back into that mix of like potential head coach again. Like we're going to have, and it has not been that way for a long time. We've been hiring like big question marks, like guys are getting interviews who you're like, oh yeah, their offense was all right, or their offense was kind of good. I could see that. But like these guys are studs right now. And there's like for the Bears, for potentially the Patriots. I don't know if Mayo lasts another year, maybe he does. I don't know what the vibes are like there, but I mean, there's a handful of teams where if they make coaching, even like Joe Brady is another guy who he's lost some of that momentum, but a few years ago he was seen like a Ben Johnson type offensive potential head coach. And like, this is a great time to need a new head coach.
Yeah, perfectly said. You know, hopefully the Jets get one of those guys. Deion Sanders
Jets.
is added to the mix in this one.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
Shador to the Jets and Deion to the Jets.
If you get Deion, you're getting Shador. It's a package deal. So
Vikings and Jaguars. The Vikings beat the Jaguars 12-17. Little too close to comfort. I feel like every week we have been talking about the Sam Darnold eventual regression, and we're just like labeled haters every week. Oh, Sam Darnold's different, and
they won the game.
Yeah, now we're seeing it, and 3 interceptions, 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in his last 5 games. Cam Robinson, I looked at this stat that he had 11 pressures on 42 pass blocks. New Vikings left tackle that's replacing Darisaw. What's your takeaway being a Vikings fan of this game?
Well, just touching on Cam Robinson real quick. He was good in his debut last week, struggled this week. He's one of those tackles who will sometimes struggle, and I want a bigger sample size to make a real takeaway from that. But it was a horrendous game for Darnold. Man, he's settled back into that high ceiling, low floor QB. And that's like a play-by-play basis. It's not like a game-by-game. It's like every play, like you might get a 97-yard touchdown to Justin Jefferson, or you might get one of the worst picks you'll see of the week. And there's not really any odds that favor either side. It's just kind of a coin flip. And I guess he's a turnover machine. He's also kind of a big time throw machine. I guess it's better to have that ability than not have that ability while limiting turnovers. Like if you're just a check down machine, like that's when you get like the starting quarterback hurts and you've got like rush coming in and the offense just can't function. And like the offense can function with Darnold. You're just going to have like back-breaking mistakes that hurt you. But I mean, theoretically, like if he gets hot, like you can go on a run come playoff time, or like at different points in the season where he strings together 3 really good games. And that's kind of just where we're at, is you hope for the high end outcome in a game with him. You hope that he avoids those errors. But you're going to get splash plays. You're going to get terrible picks. And they barely beat this Jags team where Mac Jones was just horrendous in. So
this is the game where JJ McCarthy would have settled in and put on his helmet and walked in, stepped in, and
I agree.
This was the debut for him.
This was the one. Yeah. This probably because Darnold would have held the job until halftime of this game.
Yeah, he was that bad, but they still found a way to win off that elite defense. The
Yep.
Panthers beat the Giants 20-17.
Yep.
Giants should bench Daniel Jones. He was that awful.
Yep.
Also, he has an injury guarantee. Don't want to risk him getting injured and then having to pay him next year.
Oh my God.
Bryce
Imagine.
Young. Yeah, that would be awful.
Next game, he's just Tua-ing it. Yeah.
Bryce Young building confidence. I mean, is this something you're keeping your eye on? What have been your thoughts on Mr. Bryce Young?
I mean, it's like they should be playing Bryce Young over Andy Dalton. I'm glad he's back in there. Back-to-back wins. Good for Bryce Young, but is it good for the Panthers? Like, no, it's terrible for the Panthers, at least the way I view these things. Like,
so let me ask you, do you think they should Bryce Young, do you think they should stick it out with him one more year? This is the draft to draft a quarterback and not like a Luther Burden.
Yeah. I mean, if he really kills it the rest of the year, then yeah. But like, he doesn't really have the weapons to kill it. And I feel like they've kind of like stripped that potential away for him to potentially play well, which to me is them signaling that they're done with him. But then now winning these games can spoil those plans, because if you don't get Cam Ward or Shador, like, there's not like, you're into like LR like territory, like who else? Like the draft this is not a deep draft like last year. And yeah, I think they're in a weird spot where I think they have assets to recoup. Their management is probably wanting losses, but now they're getting wins, but they're not sustainable wins, and they're against bad teams, and the teams they're losing to are jumping them. Yeah, but now they have 3 on the year, and now they're in like a race for those top picks with like a bunch of other really bad teams like the Jaguars and the Cowboys, and like and Bryce Young is trying to win. You saw how happy he was after that win. Like
he wants to win. Yeah, he
wants to get next week too, and the one after that, and the one after that. And
well, good news for the Panthers if they want to lose is that I think week 15 is their last potential win against the Cowboys when they play them at home. But the Panthers play the Chiefs, the Bucks twice, the Eagles, the Cardinals, the Falcons. I don't know if there's going to be another win outside of the Cowboys win.
You know who I like right after I shat on all the weapons on the Panthers, but I actually like Coker. Coker. Yes. You know, the Jalen Coker fans on Twitter are calling themselves cokeheads.
Yeah.
He's got this weird hive of like super, super fans, but undrafted rookie from Holy Cross. But he's smooth. He's good. He gets out of his transitions really well. Big frame, 6'3". I like him. I think he's going to be a player.
Yeah, I picked him up in my Dynasty League. He's on my bench right now. One. You know, just to keep an eye on that. So I got a lot of sleeper receivers like Khalil Shakir, Romeo Dobbs, Coker. Yeah. I have Dontavian Wicks.
I was about to say Wicks. Yeah,
all the sleeper guys. And then my receivers, my top ones are Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas Jr. So I have a pretty stacked receiving group
you're built for the future.
For real, I really am. Last game, Falcons and Saints. Saints won 20-17. I think the Falcons are an average football team. You know, I think their defense really sucks. Letting MVS score 2 touchdowns on you, Derek Carr have this great game.
Those throws were so good, though.
They were, you know, but
they were coverage beaters. They were really good throws.
Derek Carr can have these type of games where he just plays like one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, no, those were like 2 of the top 5 throws of the week, probably. But also, I don't think this was on the Falcons. Like, I think the Falcons won the game. Koo missed kick after kick. Like, they shouldn't have been in this position. Sometimes, like, the kicker just loses you the game. And I felt like this was one of them. Like, Cousins was all right. He wasn't like one of his best games of the year, but he was fine. Bijan was excellent. I think that the way that the Falcons right now they finally found out the way to the way to just maximize the usage and the skill set of Bijan, the touch diet they're giving him, the touches in space, the screen game, the way they work him out there, the pistol touches, like they get him like the outside zone from the pistol where he can flow like at a different angle than from under center. And also like Kirk Cousins just looks awkward now on in those stretch wide zone runs from under center where pistol I think kind of helps that. But yeah, like Bijan is playing really, really, really well. He's breaking a lot of tackles. He had a 5.9 RBIS score this week, 4.2 yards after contact, 25% missed tackle force per attempt rate. Just excellent offensive weapon right now. I think that their offense is really good. Their defense is like, yeah, it's bad. I don't think it's terrible, but it's bad. And it's not, they're not going to win playoff games. Maybe they win a playoff game. That's probably their ceiling. Man, they really could have used a top 10 pick on the defensive end. That would have
Verse, imagine if they had the ability to get him, it would have been good.
Verse or someone else. But yeah, there's a lot of Verse would have been awesome on that team. That would have really changed their just the way that defense functions. But
it's not like people were saying that or anything, The Falcons were oblivious to it.
Yeah, literally. But that's what they did. They chose like long-term stability, I guess, over
for a win now team.
For a win now team that just went all in on Kirk Cousins. Like we don't need to go back to that. It's gotten enough hate, but we all know the reasons why, and now we're seeing them on the field. But yeah, I mean, I think Koo just choked him the game.
Yeah, that's totally valid. I definitely understand where you're coming from, and sometimes they win you the game, sometimes they lose the game. Like the first time they played the Saints, Younghoe Koo hit the game-winning field goal, and then this last time he missed a multitude of ones. So it is what it is. But that's gonna do it for NFL Week 10 recap. Jackson McIntyre, it's always great talking to him. My co-host, you guys know where you can find us, the Weekly Blitz YouTube channel. Gonna drop the link in the description below and in the comment section where you guys can go and subscribe to that YouTube channel. We'll be posting segments from the full episode on that YouTube channel, so you guys can go check it out. Thank you for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.